Hey, I'm Matt Inglot, and I am building a pinball machine. Today, I'm going to take you through the progress that I have made on the ball feed mechanism in order to feed balls automatically into the shooting lane. It's pretty cool, so let's go take a look. Okay, so let's begin by talking about what the ball feed mechanism actually is. It's this part here that I've mocked up so far in cardboard. And what it does is it allows us to feed a ball into the shooting lane. So let's say that we want to start a game of pinball. We go ahead and we push a button, and that actuates this solenoid here, and it feeds a ball into the shooting lane. And then, of course, we can shoot the ball. It'll go into the play field, it'll hit a bunch of targets, and eventually we're going to miss with our flippers, especially since these flippers are drawn in with permanent marker, and the ball will have to get fed back in. So what's going to happen is when the ball is missed by the flippers, it's going to hit this ramp here, and that's going to be made out of aluminum or something else, and it'll roll down here into this ball feed beginning point here. And what's not pictured yet in the prototype is there is going to be a second solenoid right here, and when the game detects a ball over here, it will actuate the solenoid will bounce this ball up this ramp and feed it back into the trough. So at any given point, we can have 4 balls, or really with this design, possibly even 5 balls stacked up in the game and ready to go. And as you can see in a sec, this cardboard prototype actually seems to work really well. So I'm going to actuate again. Boom, we have a ball and another ball and another ball. Here it got stuck in a piece of cardboard, but let's pretend it rolled down. Now, I will say I am loving cardboard and I am loving the glue gun. They are the absolute fastest way to get something prototyped. So this whole mechanism only took a couple hours and maybe 2 or 3 different revisions to find something that will actually work. So there's no computer modeling, there's no 3D printing, there's no woodworking. It's just gluing some cardboard together. And as you can see from this demonstration, that does seem to work. We now have a design that seems to get the ball up this ramp down here where the balls can sit, and we're able to feed balls one at a time through here. So now that we have a proven concept, let's go actually model it, and let's see if we can create a 3D printed plastic part that is equivalent to this cardboard part here. Okay, I am back, and I have a beautiful 3D printed ball feed trough here, and it is looking fantastic. So full disclosure, I had my brother help me 3D model it. In other words, I gave him all the measurements and he did all the work because I am not the best at this stuff, and he just did an absolutely fantastic job. So you can see before we had the cardboard mechanism, and now we have an actual 3D part. It is fantastic. So the idea is the balls will go up this ramp, feed down here. Here's a spot for the solenoid, and they will sit in this groove. And when the solenoid activates, they will go up this ramp. And check it out. This is just gorgeous. This is the first custom part that I have printed on my new 3D printer. Yes, I bought a 3D printer basically for this project. And I am just floored with how amazing it turned out. But the big question, of course, isn't how awesome does your part look? The big question is, does it work? So let's give that a try. I'm going to grab my trusty glue gun, and I am going to go ahead and assemble this. Okay, I've got old gluey here. Let's go ahead and attach this solenoid. And yes, I am using a glue gun. Obviously, in the final version, we'll have a better way to mount it. But like I said before, cardboard, glue gun, permanent marker, these are the things that make prototypes easy. Now, I do think the glue gun is one of the most dangerous tools in my shop. I have lost big chunks of flesh because I've glued myself. So be careful with these things. Don't do what I do. I burnt myself just attaching this. So I'm attaching the solenoid here. It's a temporary attachment. That's the beauty of the glue gun. I can take the solenoid off I can remount it, I can play around, and once I'm happy with it, then I can find a way to mount the solenoid for reals. Now, we're also going to need this to be at a slight incline because the way this was designed, there is an assumption that gravity is kind of acting on this ball feed mechanism because a pinball table does not sit flat. It sits at a 6.5 degree slope, and we're going to pretend that's 6.5 degrees. All right, let me grab some balls and let's see how this works. So I got a few balls here for us, and these are 3/4 inch, by the way. So the whole scale of this pinball table is about 65% the size of a real one. The idea is that it's pretty portable. You don't have to hire piano movers. 2 regular people can move the playing field around. You could even move it as one person. It's not that heavy, it's just super awkward. So normal pinballs are 1 1/8 inches. These are 3/4 inch balls. So let's give it a shot. Let's pretend the ball goes up the ramp here. Again, there's a magical solenoid that we haven't mocked up yet that will shoot this up the ramp and into the ball trough. And then let's see if this actually works. Now, the circuitry for the solenoid is visible here. And if you know anything about electronics, you know this circuit is not a good circuit. With the way solenoid works, we don't have a diode protecting what it should be protecting, and we shouldn't be switching to amps with that little push button switch. So in fact, I have melted that little push button. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of manually activate it. Oops. Okay, maybe my glue gun job wasn't great, but hey, it worked. We actuated it. So I'm going to go ahead and fix this, and then we're going to try it with more balls. So I have all 4 balls in the mechanism, and I've actually discovered a bit of a problem. So check this out. I'm going to go and I'm going to actuate the solenoid. Oops. And the one ball, the one ball fell, got out of the shooting lane, no problem, is now rolling across my garage floor. I'll probably never see it. But now we have 2 balls in its place. And that is not so good because now if I actuate it, there is a risk that next time 2 balls will get fed instead of 1. Maybe not. All right, let me see what happens. All right, so it still seems to feed 1, but as you can see, now the 2 balls are kind of jammed. It's no good. We need 1 ball feeding into that area at a time. So let's try to figure out what could be wrong. So I think there are a couple things going on here. Number 1, the angle of these ramps is just too steep. So when the balls are lined up here, they're pushing each other with surprisingly substantial force. This wasn't happening on the cardboard model, but I think on cardboard, the angles were actually a little less steep and the ramps were not perfect. And I think cardboard actually has much more friction than plastic does. So all of this leads to the balls being very happy to kind of pop in here and then push each other up and out of here. So we don't want that. And then the second thing, if you can see here, this little slot for a ball, we did make a bit of an indent for it specifically so the ball would sit here. But I think we just have to be more aggressive with it, make it more ball shaped, make the ball really want to sit there once it's been shot into this slot. So no big surprise. I mean, these things happen. Version 1 was never going to be flawless. And to be honest, it worked better than I expected it to. So there's nothing to do now other than to make version number 2. Back with version 2 of the ball feed mechanism. Now, the beauty, of course, of video is that I don't have to show you the hours of modeling and printing. This part takes about 7 hours on a 3D printer, and I just snap my fingers and you get to see it. And check it out. It is a beauty. You can see, first of all, production values have gone up. We now have a ball trough version 2 embedded right in it, so we can actually tell these parts apart. We also have changed the screw slots slightly. What I was finding was that plastic seems to warp a bit. And I'm going to need this ramp to be dead flat with the pinball table. So now we have 2 screw slots here so the screws can kind of exert better force and ensure this ramp lines up with a table. On this side, it's not as big of a deal. If this is slightly warped and hanging slightly above the shooting lane, it's not a problem. But this needs to be dead flat. Additionally, the angle of these ramps is now a lot less steep. It's kind of hard to see it on camera, but we reduced the slope by about 1/3. So that's pretty substantial. And now you can also see there is a nice big hole for the ball to roll into and hopefully stay there. We will find out if we were right or if we're going to be printing a version 3. So I'm going to go ahead and put the solenoid into its slot, and then we'll go ahead and test it. The solenoid is all set up. I did attach it a little bit differently this time, and this is a really neat trick. I found that when I used hot glue to attach the solenoid to the plastic part, it really doesn't want to come off plastic so good. I mean, I'm sure if I heat it up, I'll be able to get all of this out, but it's going to be a pain. So what I often do is I put down some tape first. So all of this tape isn't just me being sloppy. I'm using the tape to protect the plastic. So the tape goes on, then the glue, and then the solenoid, which I've also taped up for the same reason. And in general, that just seems to work a lot better. So let's give this a shot. I got 4 balls here, so I'm going to load it up again. And even as I'm loading it, I'm noticing that the balls are not pushing each other out. When I was loading the other one, they did want to push each other out. So I've got high hopes for this. I haven't tested it yet, so I'm a little bit nervous, but hopefully it works. Ready? Let's give it a shot. All right. 1, 2, 3. Boom! Oh, wow, it worked. It worked. Uh-oh, one stuck. Okay, so it mostly worked. Let's find out what happened here. So boom, boom. Okay, this is looking really promising. We had that one hiccup, but we're going to try it again. Hiccups aren't the biggest problem. We do want to get things working 100% right, though. So let's see. I may have just activated that one too quickly because I accidentally hit that wire twice. So let's get a redo. Boom. 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 Wow. Wow. That actually worked. All right. This is super promising. I can't promise that there won't be a version 3. We're going to have to test this out a lot more and see if it can always reliably push the balls out. But it seems like our changes really worked. We got the ramp at a lower angle. We have this nice, beautiful slot for the ball. It all seems like it's working really well. So the next step is to put this in the pinball machine in place of the cardboard and then try to work on the next part of the mechanism. Okay, I got version 2 here mounted in the playing field, and I gotta be honest, ripping out that cardboard prototype, it was a little heart-wrenching. I spent a lot of time on that, and I was really proud of getting it working, and I had to pull it all up and destroy it in the process. But we gotta make way for progress, so version 2 is here, and now that it's mounted, let's see how it works, and I'm still a little nervous about this. Oh yeah. Oh, check that out. That is truly amazing. I am so pleased with how this is working. I think we have a winner here. So let's talk about next steps. I keep talking about the balls already being in the playing field or in the ball trough because I'm cheating and putting them in with my hand. But what we actually want to see happen is we want the ball to be able to drain down here, down this imaginary ramp, sit down here and have the game detect that the ball is sitting here and then automatically fire a solenoid that pushes it up into the trough. So really the whole ball feed mechanism is 2 parts. It's this ball trough with this ball feed solenoid here, and then there's this other part here that will actually feed the balls into the trough. So that's what I'm going to be doing next time in a separate video. So stay tuned for that. And I also want to point out that everything that you're seeing here so far is a prototype. So this is not going to be the actual playing field. It's going to look a lot better. It's going to have actual printed graphics. It's not going to have screws and plywood. It's going to look fantastic. But you don't want to start there. You want to start with low production value. You want to start with prototyping. You want to keep things as simple as possible. So all I did was I took some melamine, the same stuff that you see on whiteboards, and I mounted it on some plywood, and I made this like little cabinet in half an hour, and it works great for testing. And what you're going to see as this journey continues is there's going to be a couple more versions of this, and each version will be a little more sophisticated. It will use better materials, and it will be measured out better. But before we can do all that, we have to get all the basic components of pinball working and show that this is something that I actually am capable of and that I actually want to do. So stay tuned for more videos, subscribe, follow, whatever you do on social media these days. I'll be putting more of these out as I get the various assemblies of pinball done. Thanks for watching.